Next up, we have our Millennium Weather Report with Dave Price. How's it been looking out there?
Thanks, Michael. And what a millennium it has been weather-wise. It hasn't been this exciting since Sodom and Gomorrah. Earlier this millennium, we saw light showers over Palestine. Nothing severe to report, but our trained storm spotters did say they saw fiery tongues falling in a certain section of Jerusalem. Now, this small system epistled Paulinically north and west through Syria, Asia Minor, and Greece, and eventually moved south into the Alexandria region. Moving to the middle of the millennium, major Constantinian shift swept across southern Europe, Asia, and North Africa, accompanied by a low-pressure system. We saw this system move gradually eastward and eventually settle in the Byzantium area. Another area of concern we saw was the convergence of a couple of opposing fronts around the area of Nicaea. We saw major upper-level disturbances in the atmosphere, which created several powerful microbursts. We also saw activity around Chalcedon, components of human and divine nature combined in the Apollinariosphere that suddenly exploded into a state of hypostasis. Moving to the west, we saw an annoying Augustinian front push north and east with varying winds. Although it looked stable on the inside, we saw strong, punishing winds, especially in the Donatist region. For our viewers in Italy, Spain, and North Africa, boy did we see a dense Visigothic fog rolling from the north, bringing heavy dew, low visibility, that really sacked Rome in. North Africa and Middle East, you saw an Islamic pressure system sweep up from the Arabian Peninsula into Palestine and along Africa's coast. It even made it as far as the Iberian Peninsula. Later, we saw some interesting pockets of Frankish turbulence in the Gaul region that began unifying and eventually engulfed much of Central Europe. As you know, we've been tracking Hurricane Richard now for the past several years. Time to check in with on-the-spot reporter George Hirschman, who is in the Holy Land right now. George, how are conditions there?
Thanks, Dave. Well, I'm standing here on the coast, where we've seen Category 4 Richard just roar in like a lion, making landfall around 1189 Palestinian time. The storm has affected the coastal regions here. Lots of houses abandoned and damage everywhere.
Any reports of fatalities?
Yes, thousands, but they've mostly come in waves over the past 3 years. This has been the worst blow to this region since Hurricane Holy Crusade just 94 years ago.
What's it like further inland? How is Jerusalem holding up?
We really haven't seen much in Jerusalem. The storm is weakening as it moves inland. Saladin says they aren't too worried. They think the storm is mostly going to affect the coastal areas. Would have been good to have.
Looks like we've lost contact with George. Be careful out there. That's your Millennium in review. Now here's your Millennium future forecast. Expect strong storms in Germany and the Swiss regions, with winds gusting up to around 95 theses. If I'm not mistaken, I think I'm beginning to smell the winds of change. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Dave. We're sending in the A-team to check in with George as we speak. Now we'll go to St. Peter's Stadium, where our Seraphim sports team has some post-game analysis of the East-West Pro Bowl.
Thanks, Michael. What a game it was. The West against the East in a matchup for the centuries.
You can say that again. This was serious smash-mouth football with Augustine of Hippo as quarterback for the West and Golden Boy John Chrysostom, quarterback for the East.
You could tell it was going to be an intense game right from the start with Bernard of Clairvaux and Abbot Conrad of Marchetal. They were dragged from the sidelines by security.
I missed that. What was it all about?
Bernard was furious about the presence of cheerleaders at the game. He started chasing the girls and ranting, "To be always with a woman and not to have intercourse with her is more difficult than to raise the dead."
Yeah, and then Conrad started calling the ladies poisonous vipers. He made the sign of the cross, started to exorcise them, but they were both eventually caught and dragged off by security.
Well, I'm glad it didn't interfere with pre-game tribute to Polycarp. I thought that was a very touching ceremony honoring the passing of one of the first inductees into the Church League Hall of Fame.
A true hero for both teams today.
Speaking of heroes, I was disappointed Origin didn't suit up to play.
Yeah, Origin's on the disabled list.
What happened?
Groin injury.
Did you get a glance at the owner boxes?
Yeah, I saw Justinian and Constantine looking very regal in their box in the east.
And I noticed two popes, Gregory I and Innocent III. They were all decked out for the game in the west box.
What did you think of the team's uniforms?
I think Constantine must have chosen the Chi Rho emblazoned on the east jerseys.
You know, that Chi Rho is pretty cool, but the depiction of the Virgin Mary on the west uniforms is awfully slick. I tell you, the Virgin Mother is looking very, very holy, a clear standout on their uniforms.
Did you notice how the West used Latin and the East used Greek in their holy huddles?
Yeah, it was a little weird, but it seemed to be working for both teams.
I think the West Basilica-like longitudinal formation is much stronger than the East central glance at the line of scrimmage.
I couldn't agree more. The East tends to run the ball in circles, while the West just drives it straight up the middle. I just love smash mouth football.
The way Augustine has been playing, I thought the West would completely dominate the East.
Yeah, Augustine really slaughtered the Donatists in that game last century. I thought he'd come out slinging the ball and do the same here.
But you've got to remember that the East has a strong defensive line in the three Cappadocian fathers. You have Basil, Gregory, and the other Gregory, and when you combine them on a Pro Bowl team, they're going to put a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
I definitely saw that here. Augustine was not having his best game. He got an awful lot of pressure when those Cappadocian fathers blitzed. You know, imagine if their sister, McCrea, had been allowed to play.
And what was the biggest highlight for you, Chris?
Well, I was really impressed with the East kickoff routine. That little guy, John of Damascus, he is really quick. He's catching that, returning the ball, and darting and dodging here and there. I'm thinking, he could go all the way. Then, bam! Out of the sidelines comes Abbott Shusher. I tell you, he throws him a flying buttress block and knocks him clear into purgatory.
Yeah, and how about you, John?
I also like John of Damascus. At one point he was running the ball, spinning, breaking tackles, and spinning some more. And I said to myself, this guy is a regular whirling dervish.
No, that couldn't be, John. The whirling dervishes are Sufi Muslims.
That's right, Chris. Overall, the play was pretty even on both sides throughout the game. The one thing I didn't care for was the way the East kept challenging the referees.
Yeah, it started when Arian didn't like one of the referees' calls, so he throws the challenge flag. The referees conferred at Nicaea. The ruling goes against Arian, and then they affirm that both the Father and the Son are of the same substance.
You know, the East set a new record for challenges in that game?
That's right. Every time the referees conferred, they made a new pronouncement against heresy.
I thought the West was in real trouble when Augustine got injured, but that backup, Thomas Aquinas, came in and played a really good game.
Did you see his Hail Mary pass to tie the game?
I sure did. Was that a Theotokos Hail Mary or a Christotokos Hail Mary?
You know, John, that trajectory was very high. I'm pretty sure it was a Theotokos.
Well, it doesn't make a lot of difference. The results are the same. The fans went ballistic. They were calling it the miracle by the Holy Mother.
That pass drove the game into overtime, but then it really got bizarre. What was that all about?
Well, it looked like to me there was some kind of dispute over how the head referee and the head linesman officiated the coin toss to determine which team would receive the ball first.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. The West insisted that the coin should come from both the head referee and the head linesman, who, by the way, is his son. The West version of the rule supports that interpretation. It contains the word philokui, meaning and from the son. Meanwhile, the East would have none of it. They insist that the coin come only from the head referee. They were outraged. Big fight broke out.
I have never seen anything like it. It was a huge brawl.
I think that's the last time the East-West Pro Bowl will be played. Back to you, Michael.
Thanks for joining us for this Millennium Update. Good night, universe, and God bless.